Okay. Sorry, I wasn't able to see any of you as I scrolled. Okay. Yes. So today's uh, devotional, I thought I'll share something relating to uh, our present day and age. You know, we are, especially the remnant people, we say we are God's chosen people, and we know the times in which we live. So, in relation to that, I thought I'll share um my message, and it's entitled The High Time. Okay. So, we are here once again entering into a new year, and the year 2021 is the first year of a new decade. We have completed um, last 10 years and this beginning of another set of 10 years. And it is a very unprecedented time in which we are living. And those who are entering into this new year are very anxious, and they are very conscious of what 2021 is going to become as. So what does it mean to me, and what does it mean to you, is a big question. It is just a beginning. Is it just the beginning of another calendar year, or is it a beginning of a new and deeper experience in the things of God? These are some of the questions that I'm sure we all are asking to our own selves. So we may never live, I hate to say this, but I'm saying probably we may never live to see the close of this year. I mean, the 2021, uh, simply because of the things that we are experiencing, or maybe, God willing, that Christ may come. Uh, in 2021 itself. Uh, Whatever the situation is, the conditions are really shaping up, and the last day scenes are really unfolding right before our eyes. And how quickly all these things will be brought to a close. We've spoken so much about these times in our Bible studies, in our prophetic lectures, and um, but all these, what we have spoken, actually are beginning to transpire right before our very eyes. So with those thoughts in mind, I thought we will look at this. Because we've already prayed, I'm just going to continue. Romans chapter 13, 11 and 12 is my key text of today. Romans chapter 13, verse 11 and 12. And knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, and now is our salvation nearer than we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Therefore, let us cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. So, Paul is giving this timely admonition. Remember, many, many centuries ago, Paul wrote this. He wrote, as you see this, he packed a lot of message into this small text. You can glean out of this so many life's important lessons, admonitions from Paul here. And for Paul, his time was a high time. It was a time that he thought that they need to wake out of their sleep, and they thought that salvation was nearer than when they first believed. So they were living as if Christ was going to come in his day. No doubt, if you look at lots of Paul's writings, you will see that Paul was anticipating the coming of Jesus in his own lifetime. So now we are living a couple of thousand years after Paul, and I'm sure we know how much of urgency of time in which we are living. So how many of us are conscious of the time in which you live? How many of us are willing to be part of Christ, when Christ comes, how many are willing to be part of that heavenly journey that we want to take? That question actually is rests to us as individuals, for us to think and decide for ourselves. Okay, so here mighty men like Paul, knew of the constant dangers and the spiritual conditions that will exist during the end times, during just before Christ comes. Now, keeping that text in mind, I wanted to just focus on those two aspects: high time and waking out of sleep or coming out of darkness. Those are the two things that I want to speak on this evening. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, because the Sabbath day was a high day. In Greek is megalene he hemera. Megalene he hemera means, high day. Megalene means actually it is great. It was a great day. That's how it should be actually translated. So the Sabbath day was a great day. Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So here, this particular day, that Sabbath day, a day that came after the crucifixion of Jesus, we see here that the Sabbath day, John is saying here, as a high day. That is very important for us. Why does he say that particular Sabbath day was a high day? That is because that the preparation, the Sabbath day, as well as one of the feasts, when the feasts fall upon the weekly Sabbath day, it becomes a high day. Okay, so in this particular instant, it was the next day after the crucifixion was the Sabbath day. Sorry, the Passover day. So Passover and the Sabbath was together on one same day, and therefore it was called a high day. And you see the Jews of Jesus's days, they did not want any bodies to be left on the high day. They showed some kind of an urgency, and they were getting ready for that high day. And this is where the idea comes. We are living just before the high day. High day is the coming of Christ. Okay, and we are living in this particular times where we need to exhibit some sense of urgency. The Bible tells us in our personal lives, anticipating our actions, our words, our behaviors. Everything must exhibit that as if we are living in expectation of that high day. Now, there are several other passages that tells of these this high days, but I want to move on here. And you can see here that Romans chapter 13, verse 11 and 12, which we read, the high time points to three important aspects. One is that Paul already knew his readers were aware of the time in which they lived. Okay, think of ourselves. We also are aware of the time in which we are living, because he's saying knowing that it is the high time. That means they already knew that they were living in the high time. The second point that we can look at is that um, Paul was saying it is a high time because of his anticipation towards the coming of Jesus Christ. The third point he's saying is he was pointing to the breakdown of morality during his time, and hence he's admonishing them that they should come out of the darkness. They should clothe the armor of light. So he was actually addressing the morality of the church. So myself, when I'm looking at this text, or when you are looking at this text, you will really come to a conclusion that this text will pertain to us living in the 21st century as well, because the situation now is really applicable. The text is really applicable to the current situation, current church climate in which we are living. Because we are God's professed followers of Christ. We are the people of book. We know our prophetic timelines. We know exactly how things are moving and transpiring. And we are called the Seventh-day Adventist, which means, we are anticipating the second coming of Jesus Christ. And we are also called, ironically, we are also called the lukewarm church. We are neither hot nor cold, which is having a close connection with the morality of the church, morality of its believers. So, this text, almost Paul is directly speaking to us as the Seventh-day Adventist Church, as a whole. So here we have, as we look at some of the marks of the high time, what are some of these marks of the high time? Which could mean all these prophetic lines that we read in the Gospels and in the book of Revelation, which we have known very clearly, like the sun, moon shall darken. And one thing I want to highlight is verse 26, where it says, men's hearts failing them for fear. Okay, are we afraid these days? We are afraid. When we see these things, when we see perplexities and when we see the natural disasters, when we see these pandemics that are around us, our hearts are failing. All these things are, bringing fear to us. And look after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So this is key here. When we look after the things that are coming upon this earth, okay, one after another are coming. The other day I was watching the news, and the lady was saying that COVID is not come to leave us. COVID has come to stay with us. I'm not frightening anyone here, but that is something that we are also seeing right before our eyes. It's now, almost 12 months gone, and we have not got any closer with this situation. It has gone worse to worse, and we are on complete lockdown. We are on level 4. So the things which are coming upon this earth are certainly going to bring fear upon the hearts of the inhabitants of this earth. But what about God's children? What about God's people? Is their hearts failing them for fear? That's a question that we will see as we go across. Matthew chapter 24:3 also gives us a mark of the high times, that so likewise when ye shall see all these things, know it is near, even at the door. I just pulled up this small scribble here. It's hard for those who are nailed down by the cares of this life to enter the kingdom of God. Cares and worries of this world has nailed many pilgrims of heaven in this world. We have to take heed to ourselves, lest any time our hearts be overcharged with surfeiting, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of this whole earth. So you can see here that there is a need and urgency for us to watch and be aware of the situations, in which that we are living. Here's the verse again: watch ye therefore and pray always. That is one thing that I am very glad with our Sutton Coldfield Church, that this is praying church. Our church is a praying church, and we have always been such a church. And hence, that our church, I'm not just isolating the Sutton Coldfield Church, but any church that prays will stay together, and they will know the situation of the times in which they live, because prayer is a communication. It's just not one-way communication. The Lord reveals to us in the way that we need to live, in the way that we can adjust ourselves for difficult times. That is what God does to his children who constantly speak to him, that he may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. This text also gives us a mark of the high times in which we live. It tells us that it gives a signal that we are living in a high time. I really don't like to read this particular passage of the Bible. I hardly want to read it, but it is sometimes best, at least in these times like the start of the year, we look at the scriptures and we see if anything of this I am reflecting. And if I am, then I should, move towards close to God and ask him to help me out of these some of these traits. So I put this up here, and Paul was actually a true watchman. He was a watchman on Zion. Paul had so many visions of this closing work, this end time, that high time. He wrote so much about the last days, and no other human must have ever seen evil as much as Paul had seen evil in his day and his age. So much of apostasy. Both he has been addressing within the church and outside the church. I've been recently putting my time in studying Paul and his culture and his society. And this is what my thoughts were about Paul. His society affected the church in the church and its believers. And Paul was constantly admonishing them, no, you don't do like what the world does. You don't do like, you have to adhere to what God has instructed us. So he kind of has this two sides of the same coin. He shows one side, this is how darkness is, and this is how light is. So he kind of plays with this paradoxical words, and he was one good and true watchman, even for our day and age, so we can go to his words for guidance. No one ever had made such a personal appeal to godliness than as Paul did. So it is important for us to at times look at these scriptures and help us to come closer to God. Matthew chapter 24, 12 to 13 tells us that because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. He that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So these are some of the signals and markers or signs that we have and we can see through the Bible, and then apply that in the times that we live, and we can say, yeah, we are living in the high time. We are living just at the close of or brim of Earth's history. Now, Revelation chapter 3:17 to 18 tells us, because thou sayest, I'm rich and increased with good, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel thee to buy me of gold tried in fire. Now, these are some of the lists here that John puts it out. He's almost summarizing what we saw in Paul's text. He's saying thou art wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. That is, he's almost summarizing 1 Timothy chapter 3, 1 to 7 in these 5 words. What I noticed here is one word, naked. This is something that is like a curse that came upon humanity. I'm sure you all agree with that. As soon as man and woman, we as mankind sinned, we have exhibited our nakedness. And whenever we sinned, even God, we have this clothing, sometimes we are very proud. I'm proud sometimes when if someone has gifted me a nice branded shirt, I feel so happy and I'm proud to wear it. But actually, when you see it very closely and spiritually, we are wearing these clothes because of our sinfulness. We were clothed with light. Light was what we were supposed to be clothed with. We were given this, it's like a Shekinah glory, really, that covered us as clothes. But we have, John the Revelator here is telling us that we are still naked. We are still naked. We should never forget that. The sin has, every time we go away from God, we are actually exhibiting our nakedness. We are putting ourselves to shame. I remember the story about a king. I'm sure some of you know this story, but it's worth telling here. The king was almost, he was a very proud king, and he wanted his subjects to think big about him, think great about him. So there came a couple of tailors, and these tailors were renowned tailors, and they came to the palace one day, and they said to the king, King, you know what? We are going to stitch for you one of the best garment, but only the wise will be able to see the garment that you're wearing. Okay. And now here you notice that the king was really taken, by how they convinced him. He said, okay, fine. Would you be able to stitch me that garment so I can wear it? Now, they made this condition very clear to the king that only the wise are able to see the garment that you wear. Now, they said, give us like 30 days, we will stitch the garment and we'll bring it to you. So every time the king visits these tailors, they will be stitching. But he won't be able to see any clothes that they are stitching. And he wants to ask them, why I can't see any clothes that you're stitching? Because, but he does not want to ask. He wants to ask, but he doesn't want to ask, because if he asks that, then it will prove that he's not wise. So you see the catch there? And therefore what happens is he will just think, okay, maybe they're stitching. I'm not probably wise, and that's why I'm not able to see it, but I don't want to tell it to others. And he will see them and he will say, oh, it's going really well. It's going really well. And he will go away. So the day comes when the king was supposed to wear the clothes, the garment, and they said, you wear this garment and you go on a procession again on the street. And the king was agreed, and but they give him the garment, but he is not able to see the garment. They say, put your hand here, put your hand there, and they've clothed everything on him. The king thinks that he's probably wearing the garment, he's not able to see. And they'll put him on the horse, and he goes on the horse on the street, parading on the street. And now lots of people come to see the king going on the horse, just like how we see, when the queen and the family comes out. And the parade was going for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And everybody knows that only the wise can see the garment the king is wearing. And as the procession went on, suddenly a little child in the crowd said, "Oh, the king is naked. Oh, the king is naked." Then everybody said, "Yeah, the king is naked." Everybody started saying, "The king is, I can see the king naked. I can see the king naked. I can see the king naked." And you see the shame that came upon the king. Then he realized, yes, he is really naked, and these tailors have actually tricked him. And this is the situation of us as Christians, or as God's, who claim to be God's children. Sometimes we want to say that we are wise. We are the remnant church. We are the wise church. We are the wise people of God. Daniel chapter 12 verse 1 tells us that God's children are wise. So we take this literally and we apply to ourselves that we are wise, but we do not exhibit anything that shows us that we are wise children of God. And we only in return exhibit our nakedness. If the king could have stood there and questioned, I don't see the garment, he wouldn't have been in the situation that he was. Sometimes, we just follow and go through the process, or in the moment, because we are, as a group, we travel the journey to eternity. We do not travel as an individual. We begin by coming to church. We have this church activity. So we have this motion that's constantly, keeping us busy. But then we do not have this setback and think and talk to our own self. I think of my own personal experience. For example, every time I study the Bible, I study the Bible with intention, what I can share to others, how I can edify others, how I can enrich others. But I never sat on my desk studying the Bible, how I can enrich my own self first. What is there in the scriptures for me, which I very lately realized, and I began to look, it began to help me and began to make things different for me in my spiritual life. So it could be various different things for us as a church, as individuals. You look into your own lives and see, because sometimes we can be preaching and busy doing so many different things, thinking that we are progressing the gospel. We have this high level of pressure of witnessing to others, and unfortunately we fail to witness within the church, we fail to witness within the family, and we fail to be doing justice for our own souls, with the gifts that God has given to us. And this is key and important as we travel into the new year. These are some of the spiritual elements that are very important for us. Now, as we look through the second aspect, coming out of the high time, and Paul is then saying it is high time and we need to awake out of our sleep. Okay, so there is an urgent need that Paul is bringing here. And looking at that, we can see another 3 points that Paul is bringing about. He's saying that our spiritual condition currently is we are asleep. So we have to awake. So that is his admonition. And then he says, you need to cast out the words of darkness. When you close our eyes, it is fully dark, isn't it? When we are asleep, we are unconscious. We don't know what is happening to us. So God's people will be weighed down with the words of darkness. I remember when I was traveling with my sister from Surat to my hometown in Erode. We both started a very good journey. We were traveling on the train and we were having a lot of fun. We cooked a lot of food. We were eating. It was, I think, a day's travel. I can't remember very clearly. And there were other youngsters, passengers who were traveling, and we made friends with them, and we were playing cards, things like we were having a good time. As we were approaching Erode, it was about 3 hours away from home, and we were really tired. We did not, take enough rest. We were really tired, so we both just sat like that, and unconsciously we fell asleep. And because we've fallen asleep, we were not able to anticipate how far we are from home. You see, think of, as I share this, think of our spiritual journey as well. When we are asleep, we can't anticipate how close we are towards that high time. And we really slept, and the train actually stops for 15 minutes on Erode Junction. And we were actually at our junction, but we were both fast asleep on the bench, because this train actually, the final end station is Coimbatore. So after Erode, the next station, another 2 hours away from Erode. So almost most of the people have already got off there. Only few lingering in the compartments. Most of the train become now empty. So you can see that we are asleep. The train has reached home, almost home. And most who are awake and ready have got off the train. Now, the train is slowly moving, and there's a man who comes and he pats on me and he says to me, I thought you were supposed to get down at Erode Junction. You see, we have almost made friends with all the passengers in that compartment. Okay, so we were so busy, we were entertaining everyone and we were being entertained, and almost everyone knew us and they knew where we are even getting down. So this is our situation, even in our spiritual life. We know everything. We have told people of the end times. We have talked to people about the high times. We have talked to people about the prophecy. We have talked to people about various different things of our Christian experience. But we can also miss the mark. So here we immediately got up, and the train is very slowly moving to get its pickup. And as the train is moving, I shook my sister up. She got up. I was not wearing any shoes at the time. It was all underneath the chairs that we were sitting. We only grabbed the suitcase, and we both the train, by the time we came to the door, the train almost started going fast. So what my sister did, she first jumped out the moving train, and she was almost going to fall into the track. So I, in that shock, I too jumped right after us, and I was also about to be pulled into the track, just almost hairline distance between me and the train running past me and lying down on the platform. The suitcase is now somewhere far away, that is thrown out. I am down, and in all this, I was also bringing my bike from Surat. My bike is in another compartment, and unfortunately, I had to go and get someone to. If I would have got down early, I could have gone and got that bike out. Now that bike is going in that train, and this was such a nightmare. And I had to catch a bus, and I have to travel down to Coimbatore the very moment, and then come back, home after I stayed one night in Coimbatore, and then I came back. So it gave me a lot of tension and it gave me a lot of discomfort, just because we overslept. We were not ready and aware of the situation in which we were traveling. We slept. It reminds of, the 10 virgins parable. Whenever I read that, I remember this story. So Paul is here admonishing us to awake out of our sleep, especially as we are entering 2021. He wants us to awake. It was a story of Jonah as well. What meanest thou? How could you sleep when things are going in such a difficult situation? Go and call upon your God. That is exactly what we should be doing in these times. Call upon God. If so, be that God will think upon us, that we not perish. No, God does not want us to perish. And when we call upon him, even these, heathen sailors, they are saying to Jonah, who believe in a true God, that you call upon your God, if he is thinking about you, we will not perish. I put this down, made a statement here. The present truth, we call present truth. We say to ourselves, we are, deliverers of this present truth. The present truth is ineffective, my brothers and sisters, in the lives of people who are entangled in the works of darkness. And what is the work of darkness? That is exactly what we read in 1 Timothy chapter 3. And John is also writing the same thing. He's summarizing it in verse 16. John chapter 2, verse 16, he says, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That is the works of the darkness. And where does all this come from? Where does the work of darkness come from? Nowhere else. It's right in our hearts. Evil thoughts, murderers, adultery, all these things, they come right out of our heart. And hence, then Paul is saying that we need to be clothed with the armor of light. We need to be clothed with the armor of light. The armor of light and the armor of God is the same thing. Be strong in the Lord. The only way that we can be strong in the Lord, we know that it is a high time. We know that we are living at earth, the end of earth history. And the only way that we can come out of this darkness, come out of the work of, by nature, we all are darkness. By nature, we are naked. But only way that we can now clothe with the armor of light, only way we can clothe with the armor of God is, only way we can come out of this darkness is to be clothed with the armor of light. And that is the armor of God, and which Paul clearly puts it in Ephesians chapter 6, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, the faith, shield of faith, and the sword of his word. These are the things that we need to clothe in this last day and age, the armor of light. Finally, I'd like to close by reading this statement here. The great crisis is just before us. To meet its trials, temptations, and to perform its duties. To meet its trials and temptation and to perform its duties will require persevering faith. But we may triumph gloriously, not one watching, praying, believing soul will be ensnared by the enemy. So that is an assurance. There's a crisis ahead. We are stepping into 2021. I'm sure, there are crises ahead of us. We cannot, close our eyes and say, there will be a prosperous new year. Yeah, if it is a prosperous new year, great and fine. But let us be ready, if there is a crisis, how are we going to handle the crisis? The only way is to watch. Watch, this is a high time. Pray and believe and clothe the armor of light, my brothers and sisters. I want to finish by saying this. When I was a little boy in the hostel, my parents put us in hostel. I was at the age of 10 in boarding school. The bell rings at 5:20. That's the first bell for us to all wake up. And the second bell rings at 5:25. And the final bell is at 5:30. And 5:30, the boarding master would come room by room and check if any of us are sleeping. And if any of us are sleeping, he is a cane. And he beats with that cane the one who is sleeping. He whips them up and it's a bamboo stick. So 5:20, those children who have heard the bell, who are, they get up fine. But some get up at 5:25 in the second bell. Some get up at 5:30 in the third bell, but some continue to sleep beyond. 5:20 is almost the high time. Yeah, those who hears the bell get up. And 5:30 is the high time. And anyone who was sleeping beyond the high time, they would be punished. Brothers and sisters, now is just before the high time. We are just right there. And in this time, we've got to be awake. We have to be awake so that we will be ready to get ready and we will escape the punishment. Are you ready, my brothers and sisters? Are you ready? It's time to wake out of sleep. I want you to see Jesus. Don't you? We all want to see Jesus. We can't hold back this darkness. We've got to let it go. You and I can cast this darkness out through the power of Jesus, and we can clothe this armor of light. We can equip ourselves for victory through this armor of light. Walk holding God's hand, my brothers and sisters, in 2021. Jesus is your Lord and he is your life. Thank you. May God richly bless you. Amen.